Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Crushed Celluloid. Today, we break our own rules to look back at 1994's The Shawshank Redemption, a film not at all forgotten due to constant cable play and a general consensus of it being an amazing fucking movie. But that's what you can expect from the boys at Crushed Celluloid. We break the boundaries, subvert the status quo, and ask the tough questions because... who am I kidding? Someone donated money for us to do this film, and we like money. So, a very special thanks to Tasha, and without further ado, it's time for Crushed Celluloid. Me.
Like an angel.
Okay. So today on the podcast, we are talking about the 1994 film, The Shawshank Redemption, which, as I'm sure all of you immediately thought when we said that, is not a forgotten film. It's actually pretty well remembered. It still comes on TV quite a bit, and I think it's in quite a few lists of, like, best movies of all time.
Yeah, it's not...
But,
it's not...
Yeah, well... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say it's not merely a not forgotten movie. It is ranked as IMDb's user favorite movie of all time. So
yeah, IMDb, it has a 9.3, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even Rotten Tomatoes, it has like a 91 critic and a 93 audience.
Yeah, audiences fucking love this movie. I would say this is probably the most remembered movie ever. And we'll get into why, which I guess is what we're going to kind of end up talking about, because everyone knows the plot of this movie. There's really no point to us stepping through it too much. But
they definitely do, and it is weird, though, when you think about it, though, because even I think in, like, IMDb's top 250 movies, it's, like, number one, or, like, it's very up towards the top. But this movie was a relative flop when it came out. I think it had about a $25 million budget. When it initially came out, I think it only made, like, between 16 and 18 million back, but then it got re-released during the Academy Award season, like the Oscar season, and it made back about another 10 million. It ended up doing like 28.3 million, and then way more on video. It was like one of the highest rented movies when it came out. And then, of course, Ted Turner sold it for super cheap to TNT, his own company, and then they just started playing it all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the movie got its infamy. Like, probably no one would know about this movie were it not for Ted Turner being a cheap bastard. Like, that's essentially what he did.
Pretty much. Well, not only that, though, is that I keep, when talking about this film, I keep wanting to refer to it as a classic, but I think the only reason I want to do that is because it started out on TNT's, like, new classics or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it's one of those weird times when someone pushed something to being a classic.
Yeah, they made it into a classic.
Yeah, this time it actually worked.
It stuck.
It did stick, and I will say it does deserve to be there. Like, this movie is. It's a good movie. It's a very good movie. It's relatively flawless, but it's also toothless in many ways.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, like the first half, I forgot how gritty and real this movie can be, like how just painful it can be to watch at times. But then the second half, it turns into like a quasi-summer camp movie with embezzlement.
Yeah, a little bit, and not only that, but just like how uplifting and how high up it went in the ending after everything you had seen throughout the movie. Like, it kind of cuts it down a little bit, and I think even the director, Frank Darabont, who I'm a big fan of, I think originally the ending of the movie was going to be like, you know, Red leaving and possibly going to meet up with them, like finding the box, and that was probably the end. But then they test screened it, and they had to like add in a happier ending where they actually meet up and hug and live forever happy in a bromance for the ages.
Which is really strange because, well, he did say he wanted it to be exactly like the short story, like, and where that ends is with Red in the bus line going to meet Tim Robbins. So it's not like it's even that much different, but instead they had this 10
that's
to
the thing.
15-second shot that they added in that test audiences loved, apparently.
Well, apparently, but it's so weird because the movie had a logical ending point during that time. Like, when he's looking out the bus window and he's talking about how excited he is and stuff, and he hopes to see his friend again and shake his hand. perfect place to end it, but then he's like, I wonder, and then it cuts to him actually doing it. So like, why did you still have that voiceover if I'm hoping to do it if you're about to show him doing it?
And the craziest thing is it totally breaks the color scheme of the rest of the movie. Like, the rest of the movie is very drab, very earth tone, and then the very last scene, it cuts to like blinding blue and white beach.
Well, yeah, and that is very odd, but not only that, but just throughout this movie, we've seen these characters age over the course of, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And, by the end of the movie in the prison, they're gray hair, they're looking a little bit more rugged and stuff. They get to the beach, and they both look like they did at the start of the movie. Like, Tim Robbins has his hair cut shorter, it doesn't look gray anymore. He looks all, like, tan and buff and awesome.
Yeah.
He looks like he just, regained the past 20 years that he had missed.
Yeah, I wonder how much, he must have, maybe he was getting buff for another film role. He's like,
they definitely reshot that later.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But yeah, no, this movie was definitely a huge cable staple, and I think that's part of the reason, on video and then on cable, because it was only, a year or two later, I think, that it started playing on TNT. It definitely got it, and it's been a huge staple since then. But, okay, I recently read this article, and it was about the top 10 most played movies of last year. Where do you think Shawshank ranks on that list?
Number 1. I am positive.
No. Actually, number 1 was Mrs. Doubtfire.
No way.
Yeah. You know what? Shawshank Redemption has apparently faded away a little bit in the past few years, so I guess it's becoming forgotten. It was actually 9 out of 10. The only movie it was played more than in the top 10 list was Catwoman. Catwoman was number 10.
Oh, yeah. It must be really cheap to get Catwoman rights.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, even the crazier thing about the rights to Shawshank is they haven't even sold them to Netflix yet. That would be the perfect place for this movie. Everyone
that's the thing. I was trying to think. When I was going to watch it, I tried to see if it was on Netflix, and you can definitely get it on DVD, but I could have sworn I had, passed by it before, but it wasn't there.
Yeah, no, I read an article that said it has never been there.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yeah, so it's weird. I guess, I don't know. I guess TNT just wants to hold on to it for as long as possible.
Probably. I mean, that's kind of started their bread and butter. That's what started their whole new classics thing.
I mean, it's almost literally their movie. Even Frank Darabont was talking, when he was interviewed about it, he was saying, well, Ted Turner, God bless him, decided he needed to play it every 5 minutes. Yeah. That's how he got famous.
Well, yeah, and that was the thing in the article. It said, when it started, it was playing, once every 2 months, and I was like, no. It might have played once every 2 months, but it played about 4 times a day once every 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
So I definitely, even it had been probably since then, because I haven't even had cable in 6 years at least, but
yeah, exactly.
It's probably been well over a decade since I've seen it, since I saw it on TNT last. But as soon as the movie started going, I remembered every single scene. That's how many times I had watched it on TNT.
See, that's the thing, is I started tuning out towards the end because I knew it beat for beat. I was like, I know exactly what's going to happen, because that's the part I've seen the most. I haven't seen the beginning that much. I mean, I've seen it.
Well, that's because that's what they relied on. That's what a lot of movies that play on cable rely on. That you're flipping through the channels, you happen to come across them, and you're like, oh, I remember this movie. So you basically end up watching the second half of a movie much more so than the first half on cable.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I think there were a few parts in the beginning that I was like, oh, I didn't even remember the whole thing about him sitting in his car with the gun and stuff like that. Yeah. That had slipped my mind. But yeah, totally. everything from the second, third on, I had it. Yeah.
And I will say one interesting thing I saw is that when you see the hands kind of fiddling around with the booze and with the gun, that's actually Frank Darabont's hands.
Yes, I did read that. I thought that was really cool.
He didn't trust Tim Robbins to get his hands right the way that he wanted them to look.
I am a big fan of Frank Darabont. In case you don't know him, he actually has done a lot of Stephen King stuff. The way he got the rights to do this movie was that I think he adapted another one of his short stories back in the early 80s when he was first getting into film. And then Stephen King had this thing that he would do for kind of up-and-coming directors and stuff, to where he would kind of sell the rights to certain stories to them to make for pretty cheap. I think he sold it to Darabont for $5,000 and never even cashed the check. At least that's the rumor that I read. But in addition to that, he also did The Green Mile, and he also did The Mist, which that is a well-done Stephen King adaptation. I fucking love The Mist.
No, The Mist was awesome. But I think you're overplaying Frank Darabont a little, because he hasn't done that much.
Well, I mean, he hasn't just been as a director. Like, as a director,
Yeah.
he's mostly done Stephen King stuff. He also did the Jim Carrey film The Majestic,
Yeah.
which is a little hokey, but I actually really enjoy it.
Never saw it.
Oh, but he actually did a lot of really good writing as well. Like, he wrote the third part of Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors. He also wrote, like, the 88 remake of The Blob, The Fly 2, and then, of course, now he's huge for doing The Walking Dead.
Yeah, which he only did the first episode of. But
Well, yeah, but
amazing.
he developed it. He directed the first episode, and I think he wrote a
Yeah.
couple more episodes than that.
He did. Yeah,
He kind of got taken away from him, though.
Yeah, and I will say The Walking Dead. I have a very contentious opinion on that, which is the first episode was the best, and it just instantly went downhill. Like the second episode, the quality was way lower, and I just haven't been able to get back into it because I saw how awesome it could be, and then it just sank immediately.
Well, and that's the thing about The Walking Dead for me was that I'm a big fan of the comics, and I really enjoyed that. And I never read through all of the comics, but I got through at least like the first 4 or 5 volumes of the comics, and I was excited about this when the show started because fucking Frank Darabont was doing it, and I know he was able to do this. So I watched the first episode, and I thought it was awesome, and then for some reason it just didn't click with me, and I never watched another episode.
It's really like it literally goes extremely downhill the second episode. Like I'm surprised it has such a cult following because besides the first episode, I find it intensely mediocre, and besides the fact that zombies are just ridiculously overplayed by now.
Well, that's the thing. I kind of am surprised by that too, because I feel like zombies have kind of been overplayed at this point. But for some reason, like it just stuck, and I guess it's just because it's on cable TV and it is kind of violent and more gritty than a lot of other stuff. And you know, it was kind of paired up with like Breaking Bad and stuff. So I think they just kind of maybe it looked better because it was being shown like kind of on the off season of when that wasn't playing and stuff.
I could see that, yeah.
But again, it has a huge following. People seem to like it. I am kind of overplayed at zombies at this point. Like there have been so much better things done with zombies. Like I dare someone to actually impress me with a zombie movie or a zombie TV show at this point.
Yeah, I think Zombieland was kind of the nail in the coffin. I haven't even seen Zombieland, but from the accounts I've heard, like once you're making parody of it, it's pretty much dead.
Yeah, and I enjoyed Zombieland quite a bit. It was quite a funny movie, but yeah, that was probably the last time that I was interested in a zombie film or anything.
Yeah, and then like Brad Pitt does World War Z, and
yeah,
anyway,
I didn't see that.
Let's get
oh
back on
yeah, we're
track.
talking about Shawshank Redemption.
We are not talking about zombie movies,
Well, I'm sorry, Frank Darabont, man.
Yeah, we are talking about Frank Darabont, and yeah, The Mist is like he does really good Stephen King adaptation. He's kind of like the Stuart Gordon of Stephen Gordon to H.P. Lovecraft. Frank Darabont is kind of that to Stephen King. He's the only one that really makes movies worth watching about that writer.
Yeah, I would think so, at least as far as like faithful adaptations. Because there have been some decent movies based off Stephen King's work, like Stand By Me still holds up. That's a really good one. And, you know, there's some good ones like, Pet Sematary, and even like, I don't know, I enjoy Cujo. I can't help it.
Yeah.
But they're not like really good movies, and they're not really good adaptations and as faithful as something like this is.
Yeah, and H.P. Lovecraft is more subject to really shitty interpretations of his work than Stephen King is. But yeah, Stephen King, that's all I meant, is that Frank Darabont has done the best, not that no one else has done good.
Oh yeah, no, it was a good comparison. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, come on.
I'm just giving all the
Show
information,
respect.
okay? No, Frank Darabont, he's Stuart Gordon. I get it. It's cool.
It's cool. Yeah, I guess the other notable thing is that one of the few other movies that Frank Darabont has directed was The Green Mile, which it's actually the movie he directed after Shawshank Redemption, which is very comparable to Shawshank Redemption in many ways. It definitely has different subject in mind, but
because it has that supernatural element to it as well, and it's a bit campier, it's a bit sillier than this one is. This one takes itself very seriously. There is some comedy in it, more from just like the camaraderie between them and stuff. Yeah. But for the most part, like it's a bit sillier. 'Cause you have the Michael Clark Duncan character, you have Tom Hanks like not being able to pee, which is just funny. It's funny.
See, I don't remember it that way. I remember Green Mile taking itself very seriously.
No, there are elements to it, but I think tossing in the supernatural element and certain things about Tom Hanks's and Michael Clark Duncan's characters, it got a little bit sillier. I will say it does have its dark streaks as well, especially with Sam Rockwell. He was fantastic in that movie.
Is he the guy that does it without wetting the sponge? Was that his scene?
Yeah, no, he was the other prisoner, the creepy serial killer prisoner.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. But yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't seen it forever, so I don't remember much about the Green Mile. Like the main
last
thing,
thing the Green Mile, I think I've only seen once, maybe twice.
Yeah,
Shawshank, give me a few more hands so I can keep counting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I will say the Green Mile. I think it even resonates with me a little bit more than Shawshank, because I will never forget the scene where the guy doesn't wet the sponge.
Yeah,
like that scene is it was kind of brutal, and I don't know. There's.
Well, there is quite a bit of a butt rape in this movie, so
that's true.
I think it matches it pound for pound.
But I don't remember it being that dark. Like this is probably the second time I've seen the real version, and like just the 20th time I've seen it in general, at least.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I kind of forgot about some of the aspects as well. Like, of course, seeing it on TNT as much, I didn't realize there was as much profanity as there is. And yeah, I didn't realize that it was as violent as it was at times, and it is creepy in certain places.
Yeah, and I will say, like, even the profanity is kind of downplayed a lot compared to, like, for a prison movie. I mean, especially in 1994, like, it's really kind of light on the cursing. Like there's the scene where
it's not super light, but it's just more naturalistic. It just kind of like comes out in conversation, but it's not like punctuating things. They're not like they're using it like motherfucker, blah blah blah. It's usually just like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the fuck's going on here? Like it's kind of like just naturally kind of subtle.
It's very subtle, but like I said, just because in prison they're going to talk like sailors, and it doesn't really convey that too much.
But I did write down a few of my favorite lines from the movie. Most of them came from Clancy Brown. I think my favorite one was "maggot dick motherfucker."
You will shut the fuck up, or I will sing you a lullaby. That's a good one.
Yeah. They're gonna find my baton up your ass. Like, yeah, just Clancy Brown was really fun in this movie, even though he was a complete fucking tool. But also, I think the warden had a couple of good lines. He had one towards the end. He was like, just disappeared like a fart in the wind.
That's good. I will say one of my favorite Clancy Brown line, and I'm surprised I didn't remember this better, is the roof scene where Tim Robbins, you'll all remember because we've all seen this movie if you lived with cable at any point in your life. But Tim Robbins, he's telling him about how he can get him to save all that money tax free, and like he's talking about the tax, and he's just going off this crazy rate. He's like, you got that money, but then I can buy a new car, and then guess what? I gotta pay tax on that too. And
you
damn
get the
kids,
car, the insurance, and they fuck you. That's how they fuck you. He turned into Joe Pesci for a second.
Yeah, you do. But then he just goes off on this other rant in the middle of it. He's like, and the damn kids asking me for rides all the time. Like, this has nothing to do with taxes anymore.
No, I totally feel like he just kind of riffed that a little bit. It seems like something he would do.
No, that's awesome. And then Tim Robbins like trying to explain to him, like, well, you could save us money, but that'll cost you a lawyer, for example. And then he's just like, bunch of ball washing bastards. I love that line. He just hates everything.
Oh yeah.
Clancy Brown, he's awesome. I mostly know him from Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah, definitely. But he's been in a ton of stuff. But he also has a kind of good subtle line that just always made me chuckle every time I saw it. But when he was beating the shit out of poor fat ass that first night, the fish that breaks down, and like after he brings him out, he's like, "Now I better not hear a mouse fart in here for the rest of the night."
And I guess let's talk about Fat Ass's beating, because it kind of exemplifies, like, that whole first night, the way it's shot kind of exemplifies how beautiful this movie can be at times. Like, for a movie that's as drably colored, it is extremely visually striking, and I think that's very it's something that Frank Darabont definitely deserves a hand for. That's why
definitely. And not only that, but Darabont can fucking work a camera, man. Like a lot of those sweeping shots of the prison, and just like the way he sets up and the way he makes it look so huge, and then the next thing he'll flip it and make it look like it's the tiniest place in the world. He can work a camera.
He can, and so I mean, as much as I like, that's why you can't really say this movie is hackneyed. Like, it definitely kind of deserves its place as like regarding a great film, but at the same time, I think the argument would go that it's more remembered for being an extremely easy to swallow film. Like, it doesn't really ever challenge you too much, except in the beginning.
Well, yeah, and I definitely think that's what a lot of people come from, like, with seeing it on cable. I do think most people remember it more so for the second half of the movie that is much lighter and much more hopeful than the first half, which is really kind of gritty and dark.
Oh, it's dark.
Because, I had forgotten, and it was tough to get through the first half of this movie because, I mean, I was enjoying it. I was very engaged, but it was rough.
Oh, it's dark and rough, like fat ass getting killed, and they're like, and you don't even see it. Like, you just see him get beat, and the next thing you hear is like, yeah, the doctor went home and he didn't get there till the morning, and he had bled out by then, like something like that. And, like, Tim Robbins just like, well, what was his name? Like, and then I can't remember.
William Sadler.
Yeah, he's just like. He's like, what the fuck do you mean, what's his name? Like, you can tell he's just he's trying to protect himself. Like, they're all feeling the same thing, but they can't say it. Like, that's
I will give huge props to William Sadler in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He was probably one of my absolute favorite characters, other than, like, Clancy Brown. But, I don't know, he had, especially in that opening part, he had such a good scene, because, you know, he's betting for the fat ass to break down the first night. He coerces him into doing it, and like he's just laughing his ass off. But then as soon as Clancy Brown shows up, he switches gears and he's like, no, shut up, man, no, shut up, you don't want to do this. And then even the next day, he's like, ooh, I gotta give that guy a big fat kiss on the mouth for winning me all these cigarettes. And then he finds out he dies, and just the look in his eye, like, he just completely drops down. But then he kind of has to, like, save his own ass. But, like, who the fuck cares? He's dead. Move on. Like, he did a very fantastic job in this movie.
Oh, he did. And that's why it's so strange that the movie totally drops off the second half. Like, it starts off so dark and real and gritty, and, like, it made me so uncomfortable. And I didn't think Shawshank Redemption was about to do that to me, because I thought I knew it beat for beat.
Yeah, but no, definitely the first part did kind of throw me off a little bit, because again, I'd seen it so much less, and I hadn't really seen it unedited before either, because I'm pretty sure I just saw it on TV and that I hadn't seen the unedited version. So there was a lot of stuff I picked up.
Yeah, you had never rented it? I rented it once, I remember.
I don't recall doing that. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I might have, because I know I've seen it in its entirety before, but I know I definitely mainly just remember seeing it on TNT.
Yeah, that's my main memory. I distinctly remember watching it.
But also, I think the way that it does go, other than like that little tacked on ending, I think it does that completely purposefully, because I think it starts out dark to kind of drag this character down and drag the audience down with it. But then towards the middle part of the film, that's when Tim Robbins starts talking about hope, and he starts, like, you know, he gets a bit lighter with it. And I think, like, he's kind of starting to work on his plan, and, you know, things get him down so far to where, like, he's just kind of like walking on air. He's like, no, I'm gonna get out of here. And so it kind of like gradually starts to rise back up. I mean, it does it a little bit in the middle, but then it drops you back down again when Tommy gets killed, and then again, just it goes up from there. He's like, no, I'm getting the fuck out of here. So I think that's more kind of like, even though he's not even, it's from his point of view, it's not from Tim Robbins' point of view, it's more from Red's point of view, like, the movie and the tones of the movie are kind of following the way he is, like, inside of his mind. Like, it's kind of following him down dark. It gets lighter when he gets lighter, gets darker when he gets darker, and then gets light towards the end.
I know, and I agree, and I think that's a really good way to play it. Like I said, this movie is played pitch perfect. I understand why people love it, but at the same time, like I said, it's not a challenging movie at the end. It gets a lot less challenging the second half.
Oh, yeah.
And that, you're right, that probably is why it plays so well on TV, because it doesn't... People are only confronted with the gritty reality of the movie rarely.
Yeah, in the first part that they usually miss when it comes on.
Yeah, and so they can take it a lot better knowing that it's going to get so much lighter. Like, I mean, even the sisters, like, the main sister, I don't know who played him, but the main sister, the very effeminate, I'm going to fuck you and I'm going to enjoy it guy. Like,
it's like, ooh, hard to get. I like that.
Yeah. But after they beat Andy within an inch of his life, so you fucking hate them. But at the same time, when he's getting beaten by the guards, and he's, like, grabbing onto the railing and crying. Like,
he's crying out for help. Yeah,
you feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's kind of like getting his comeuppance in a way, but he's getting it by a character who is even, well, don't want to say even worse than him, but just as bad as him. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's conflicting your emotions about it. Like, you're glad because, he's not going to fuck with Andy anymore, but at the same time, fucking Clancy Brown is still being a complete fucking asshole to people.
Yeah, and it draws empathy from you for someone you don't want to empathize with.
Yeah,
like, it's like a Lolita situation.
In a way, yeah, it makes you feel bad for kind of like caring for a second. Because again, you're like, okay, well, he's the bad guy, so that's happening, but he's also getting pounded on by another bad guy, and he has no choice in the matter. Like, but again, he's also kind of getting a taste of his own medicine, so it's very conflicting.
It is.
Because you're playing one bad guy getting hurt by an even worse, or just as bad of a bad guy, so, yeah.
And that's why it's a hard movie to deal with at first. That's reality. That's producing emotion from you. I'll say the second half doesn't do that nearly as much because it kind of becomes an escape caper. It becomes Escape from Alcatraz in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, not exact, but anyway,
Well, no, it definitely does become more of an escape caper. And again, like, obviously, it's kind of been the whole time, but you just don't see any of it until the big reveal. But I think there's just certain instances of things happening where they're a catalyst to actually like get that story going. Obviously, he's been working on that for pretty much the entire time he's been there to be able to do all that. But you can tell like he's not trying that hard or that fast to get out of there until basically the catalyst of Tommy getting killed and him being like forced to keep doing this stuff, and he's not ever going to get out. Like that's what forces it to move forward and have to become kind of that movie so quickly.
Which is one thing I was kind of disappointed in the film in, because I was watching it at first and I totally forgotten about the Tommy character and what he does in the film.
I kind of did until he showed up and I was like, oh yeah, we're getting into that part of the movie.
Exactly. He shows up and you're like, oh, that's the guy. I remember him telling the story that exonerates him now. But like when at first it's playing it and you're like, is Tim Robbins an unreliable narrator? Like, he was drunk. Did he actually do this? I thought it was going to play that. And I just thought I misremembered it, and I just always wanted to be on Tim Robbins' side. And so I was really excited. I was like, oh shit, maybe he actually is the murderer, and you're just left to leave that on your own. That's really fucking cool. But
well, and that's the thing, I kind of would have liked that, because even the Tim Robbins character is kind of very vague about it at times.
Yeah.
And, of course, even Red, like, he's unsure, he kind of thinks he did it. But yeah, that comes up and kind of takes it away, but it's not so much Tim Robbins being an unreliable narrator, because, again, other than, which is kind of weird about the way the movie is anyway, because Red is basically the main character. He's the one that you follow, he's the one that does the narration and stuff, except for that opening scene with Tim Robbins in the car and getting out. Like, I understand it sets it up, but it's just completely off kilter to everything else in the movie.
And that's where the movie gets weird, is it's trying to focus on Red, but at the same time it keeps presenting these things that Red has no way of knowing. Like, the entire escape scenario. Like, I guess he would find that out at the end, and maybe that's what they're trying to play?
Yeah, and somewhat. But again, there's also a lot of scenes of just, like, Tim Robbins being alone, or, like, when the warden talks to him alone and stuff. So, yeah, he could have told that to Red and stuff, but it's weird because you're placing Red as the narrator and as kind of the person you're following the movie with, but Tim Robbins is still the main character, and you're seeing a lot more from his perspective than you are from Red's perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it reminds me of what they did to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which the book is told from the perspective of the Indian, like the huge silent Indian, which makes the book amazing. Like,
because it's his thought process, of not talking to anyone, of seeing these characters do this.
Yeah, and he's just, but he's also insane, and so you have no idea what's kind of going on at any point in time, like, because he's misinterpreting things that are happening because he's insane, but at the same time, that's the only way you can get through the story, and that's why the movie was a little bit weak comparatively, because it's very straightforward instead of being seen through the lens of insanity.
But again, that's something to where, yes, it's based on it, but that's something to where it is a excellent movie in its own right.
Oh,
and
yes.
That's one where you can completely separate the two. Because
the book is
the direction on that, and with Jack Nicholson's performance and all the other character actors in there, like that is a fantastic movie.
No, it is, but
the book is definitely a completely different beast.
Yeah, and I think I read the book first, so I loved it so much, and when I saw the movie, I was like, eh.
See, and I think that's always a factor, because I didn't read the book until after I watched the movie.
Yeah, see, I could see that.
So I think if you watch the movie and that's how you're introduced to it, if you read the book and it's completely different, or you find even more in it, that's just added bonus. As opposed to, like, loving a book first and then seeing a movie and automatically comparing it to that.
Yeah. And speaking of, so we get back on track, I haven't read Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
I have not either. I've actually read relatively little of Stephen King's work.
I've read The Shining, and I completely agree with Stanley Kubrick. just changing the story, because The Shining kind of sucked. I thought, like, it's very supernatural based instead of being this like mentally based thing. And then like Stephen King's his own version of directing it kind of sucked in its own right.
Oh,
the really
TV
sucked.
Version.
Oh yeah, it was really bad.
Oh yeah, the one with Steven Weber.
Yeah,
the lead.
Oh yeah, fucking wings guy.
Yeah, fucking wings guy. Fucking wings and sour grapes guy.
But yeah, I mean, like they kept in like the killer hedges and shit, which is not scary in any. Yeah. Anyway, getting back to the movie, so one of my favorite parts that I didn't remember is Brooks in his crow, because when I saw the crow, I was immediately like, flag. That's my quick note about the crow.
No, I kind of remembered, but also very much forgot, and it took me a hot second, because in the opening scene when we're introduced to him and he's feeding the maggot to the little bird, I was like, oh, Birdman. But yeah, then when it comes back later and it's like full grown, I was like, oh, passage of time. I was just like, man, this guy's really into birds. And I was like, oh no, that's the same bird, that's Jake, okay.
I will say, and I'm sure you did the same research so you found this, but apparently the story is that Tim Robbins, so that the bird wasn't stomping on his lines, because you can't teach a crow when to caw.
Yeah.
He had to learn the beats that the bird would take, and so when you see him walk in the first time, you can see him kind of eye the bird, and he waits till it caws, and then he says his line. So
I read that beforehand, and I had never noticed that before, but I definitely did this time, and kudos to Tim Robbins, because he does like walk up very deliberately, and then like he gets right in the bird's face and waits for it to stop, and then says his line and turns his head real quick.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of little things I think are pretty cool, like, and going on in the background of the film. Like,
and actually, as far as more background, like initially when Darabont optioned the product, like he wrote a script, and Carl Reiner, who did Stand By Me, wanted to direct it initially. And I think he wanted Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford to play Andy and Red, which I know. I love all those people, and I think it could have been a halfway decent movie, but it would not have become what it has if it wasn't. But Darabont took like a big pay cut in order to like direct his own movie, because he wasn't really tested. Like he had done, I think, some TV or something, or maybe a TV movie or two, but this is like his first real film.
Yeah, and
which actually he almost directed the first Child's Play too. Like that was gonna be his debut, but like he held off and worked on this instead, and then did this.
Man, alternate timeline. I wonder what that would have been.
Oh yeah,
crazy.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the original Child's Play.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know. I would have loved to see what he would have done with it, but he wouldn't have had his heart and his passion into it like he did with this.
Yeah, this is definitely
that would have been a hired gun job.
Yeah, and it's strange that, so he wrote the script for it with Morgan Freeman in mind, but at the same time, Morgan Freeman's race is never brought up, like, as part of the script, so it almost feels like it was trying to go for someone else, because there's one line that's played for a joke instead of being played as it should have been played in the short story.
Oh yeah. No. It's I know what you're talking about, and it's kind of like the Italian thing in Fatal Beauty.
Yeah, it's just like something that wasn't taken out, except it's not as awkward as it was in Fatal Beauty. No, because it comes off as a joke.
Yeah, and it's actually really funny. But I think if anything, that's more just like a little nod to the hat to the people that have read the short story.
Yeah,
because like it's kind of a joke, but it's not that funny of a joke. But knowing that the character is actually supposed to be Irish, like it actually makes it much funnier in watching the movie.
So what we're talking about, since we didn't talk, is it's the line that he says, "Red, why do they call you that?" And he says, "Oh, maybe it's because I'm Irish." And he plays it like a little, like, of course I'm not Irish, I'm black.
But he also kind of like stares off longingly into the distance when he says it, which makes it even funnier. He's just like, "No, you don't want to hear that about me. That I was Irish once, but that was a long time ago."
Yeah, no, it was good, and that's the thing in the book. In the book, the character is supposed to be Irish, and I'm guessing Harrison Ford would have played that character.
Yeah, he would have played Red. There were a few different people attached to it, but I think initially Reiner wanted Tom Cruise to play Andy, and for Harrison Ford to play Red.
I do love that Kevin Costner was up for Tim Robbins' role, but luckily he was working on Waterworld.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man.
I think we all dodged a bullet on that one, except for Kevin Costner.
Yeah, except for him. We were all, that was a saving grace. Except there's one speech that I could see, I would say that if anyone could give it, it would be Kevin Costner. Because I don't remember this being as corny as it was, but the whole music speech where he's like, no, music just lives inside you. Like, that whole speech was, I wanted to fast forward. I was like, oh my god, this is so horrible. Like, but I don't know who could make it sound convincing. And then I read about Kevin Costner. I was like, you know what? Kevin Costner might be able to pull that line off.
I think he could have. Harrison Ford. Oh no, that wouldn't even have been Harrison Ford. That would have been Tom Cruise.
Yeah, that would have been
definitely
Tom Cruise.
not.
Oh no.
And that's the thing. Actually, even as far as like characters compared to the book, in the book, like Andy is not this kind of tall, lanky guy like Tim Robbins is. He is more of like a short, skinny guy like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
So like, you know, Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford, they actually would have been more similar to what they are in the story. But again, like there's no way you could have beat that pairing of Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman in this movie.
No, and Tim Robbins just brings this weird pathos to the role that he slowly emerges from Michelle. Like he starts off just extremely cold and calculating, and then he becomes a lot more personable over the course of the film. So by the time you find out he didn't murder his wife, you're like, oh, I can see that. He doesn't seem like a murderer as much like in the beginning.
Oh yeah, and they even have that line like, you know, I was always straight and narrow until I came to prison, and then I became a crook.
Yeah, and I one thing I was thinking very early in this film is that Michael Shannon owes a huge debt to Tim Robbins' performances. I never really thought about it, but like Michael Shannon seems to have taken a page straight from his playbook, and I love Michael Shannon. If this movie's made today, Michael Shannon would be playing Andy Dufresne.
Oh no, and he would be absolutely fantastic in it.
Oh, he'd be
but that's the thing, yeah, and I do like that, and I like how he kind of gradually changes a little bit, but he still keeps that kind of cold calculation in him. But I really like Red's description of him when like he first meets him, and he's like, everyone thinks, you know, he's thinks he's better than everyone else, he's got a big head or whatever, but it's more like he's just not letting the place get to him. He's just acting like he's strolling in the park or something. It cuts to him, and he's just kind of like walking around, looking at the sky, playing with rocks. Like he's just the guy that, you know, well, I mean, I guess he eventually did get broken a little bit, but
yeah, he definitely. Yeah.
So let's talk about Morgan Freeman a little bit, because I think he is obviously fantastic in this movie, and we were discussing this a little bit beforehand, but we kind of, I think, both thought that this is kind of what made him a star. But that is not the case, because he had already had several high-profile roles before this. He got kind of started more so in the 80s, but he already had like Driving Miss Daisy, and Unforgiven was a couple years before this. So he had stuff under his belt. But I believe that this is the movie that cemented Morgan Freeman the way we see him today.
Exactly. No, the way that Morgan Freeman is colored today is definitely through the lens of Shawshank Redemption, because that's why I was kind of going through his filmography. I was like, did he ever do, like, he's not really known for voiceovers until, like, except for Shawshank Redemption. And that's how he's remembered.
This movie is the reason why Morgan Freeman should narrate everything.
Exactly.
Like,
and
that's why he works. That's why, like, he can play God. That's why he can, you know, narrate a Penguin movie. Like, he can do anything because it's just that voice. Like, obviously you've seen him in other roles, and he talks a little bit and stuff, and he can, you know, do different emotions. But it's once you actually just hear him kind of, like, soothingly telling you a story, I think that's what got in everyone's heads. Like, oh, his voice just, it's like that. It should narrate everything. And that's where even like it came to parody, and where people will like do impressions of him just like narrating or saying ridiculous shit, but it still totally sounds, you know, like it works because of that voice. Yeah,
and this is the movie that cemented him as I guess TNT or TBS, which TNT had a hand in that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because again, he was already an established actor before this, and he's done some great roles. But I think this kind of cemented like Morgan Freeman as he is still seen today. Because of this movie, Morgan Freeman kind of he's still done great roles since then, but he didn't have to try as hard anymore. Like, he was more accepted as just fucking Morgan Freeman instead of, you know, being this character actor.
Yeah, definitely. What else do we have? Okay, I want to get one thing out. Where this stands in prison films. because there's a long history of prison films before this, and I was trying to think of prison films after this, but they got relegated to more action movie fare after Shawshank Redemption, essentially, except for The Green Mile, which was yet another Darabont. But like prison movies before
that wasn't even so much of an escape movie. I mean, I guess kind of.
No,
not.
Well, I'm just
really.
talking about prison movies in general.
Oh, just prison movies in general.
Yeah, not escape.
Well, yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot. I mean, of course, I think part of the reason of that is that it took more of like a TV arc. Because if you look at like Oz, like why are you gonna, when Oz was out and Oz was huge, why are you gonna try to make like a dramatic prison movie when they have that going on like every week on HBO and are just doing stellar numbers with that? And then there's even been more kind of actiony ones. There was a show called Prison Break that ran for a couple of seasons. There are some, but yeah, usually they're more action or more tongue-in-cheek. Like there was a Schwarzenegger Stallone vehicle recently, Escape Plan, that was about prisons.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Like it's the only one I can really name. Life with Eddie Murphy, or not with Martin Lawrence.
No, Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy.
Oh, it was Eddie Murphy. Okay,
but yeah, I guess kind of, but I think they were more on like a chain gang. I don't remember, but that's still kind of the same thing. Because I would still count Cool Hand Luke as a prison movie, even though it's like a chain gang. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. It's a prison movie. It's definitely dealing with prison topics, but that's another thing is that prison movies before this, I mean, I guess kind of excluding Cool Hand Luke and maybe a couple of others, they were all about making you feel claustrophobic in prison. Oh yeah,
definitely. When you look at like Escape from Alcatraz and stuff like that.
Yeah, whereas Shawshank Redemption, like it can feel claustrophobic for the most part. It feels very open. Like it feels like they kind of like I said, it kind of falls into this weird summer camp movie vibe by the end.
Well, it does a little bit, and I think that is because they focus a lot on the camaraderie and stuff. But also, again, it's a different time period. So they kind of do that. But like I said, that's something Darabont does quite well in the film. Like they'll be out in the yard and you'll see the hugeness of the yard. Or they'll be working on the roof. Or they get to like go out and do that work outside program so the guy can make money. The warden can make money. Mm-hmm. But then it'll end that scene and then it'll cut to like, inside a library or inside one of their cells or, in the prison room. And it does feel very claustrophobic and you feel completely, brought into that.
I didn't get that as much, but I guess that's just a different, because what I'm comparing it to is, I guess, Bresson's Escape from a Man Escaped.
Man Escaped, yeah.
Which that's the main narrative of the film, is making you feel claustrophobic, like you're trapped in there with this man, and it makes it an extremely uncomfortable endeavor, and I guess that's not what this movie is trying to do.
But it does happen at times, and it usually, if you'll notice, it happens during the low moments. During the moments where Andy is breaking. But then, where he's trying to hold out hope, where he's making friends, where he's lifting up his spirits, that's out in a big yard. That's out on a roof. That's when he's working outside. But when he's down, he's in the hole. He's getting raped in the laundry room. He's getting hit on in the shower. He's sitting alone in his cell. Like that, and during his escape even, until he gets out into the rain, and then again, huge open space, 5 football fields long away from the prison, and then he's out in the open. But before that, he's in a claustrophobic tunnel, he's in a claustrophobic hole in the wall, he's in a cell. So I think that's what it was. It was whenever he was trying to hold out hope, whenever he was trying to lift himself up, it went big. Whenever he was being broken down, whenever it got darker, it went small. And I think that was a conscious choice that really worked.
Yeah, I like it. I like that interpretation. But real quick, can we talk about the shit exploding from the pipe for no reason at all? Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
Why would it do that?
I don't know, it was backed up with a lot of shit.
until he burst it open, I guess? Was there just a point we missed where he's just punching through a wall of shit or something? Because they should have kept it.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
No, but, I mean, I guess...
It was shock effect.
Yeah, it was shock effect, definitely. But that wouldn't have happened because it was leading to a tunnel that was, pouring the stuff out.
Yeah, so, there's no, it was really unnecessary, too, because it's already pretty shocking that he's going through a pile of, a tube of shit.
Well, they just had to make sure you knew how covered in shit he was.
We just have to completely cover the space. There's a lot of shit in this pipe.
And also, one more thing I want to mention I kind of forgot about. And I think, again, this kind of goes somewhat with just with being in prison and the fact that everyone's kind of equal in a way. But this starts, I guess, what, in 49 or so?
47.
47 is when he comes
Yeah.
in, and he gets out in, what, like 66, 67, something like
66.
that? 66.
Yeah.
So there is pretty much no mention or scene involving like race relations. Like even the black prisoners aren't treated differently by the white guards or anything. And I don't know if that's just a thing about it being in prison and everyone's kind of equal, but that's still during that time. And even when like Morgan Freeman gets out and stuff like that, like he doesn't seem to be treated any differently. I mean, I know it's the 60s and stuff.
Well, that's still a very contentious
exactly.
time.
But like, you know, he got a job easily. Like he was just chilling on a bus. Everyone seemed to be treating him just fine. Like he didn't have to deal with any of that. And I think obviously like that's not what this movie is about. But if like he kind of saw that difference, like in prison everyone was kind of equal. No one cared that he was black, and then he got out and he noticed a little bit of that. I think that might have made it a little bit more realistic. But again, that's not what this movie's trying to be. It's just something that I thought was kind of weird, and I wasn't sure if that was just a thing about it's prison, everyone's equal, no one cares. But I figured at least the guards might, like, you know, give them extra shit or something.
See, that's why I feel like Darabont wrote the script. Like, he says he wrote it with Morgan Freeman in mind, but I don't think he did, because, I mean, honestly, there should have been at least one N-word dropped. Like, that should have definitely been in the movie.
Well, again, but it's not trying to be that. And again, it could just
It's
be
not,
that, you know,
but
prison is more equal. But again, you know, you have people raping people and you have people getting into fights and killing people and stuff like that. There are definitely going to be some people in the prison that have racial prejudices that might come out. And yeah, Red's kind of a made man in there because he's a man that gets you things. But at the same time, like, it's weird that you never saw any kind of tension like that, especially during that time period.
Yeah, well, another thing is that if it was being accurate about its timeline, you would see more black people showing up in the prison as time went on.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that slowly started happening. But once again, yeah, it's not trying to be a racial relations movie, but that's why I'm thinking Frank Darabont, he wrote the screenplay, I don't know, maybe intentionally ignoring it, but at the same time, like
again,
I said...
and that's the thing, because, again, I haven't read the short story, so I don't know. There's probably not anything involving race in it, but probably Stephen King probably didn't have in mind, like, you know, there are black characters and white characters. And, you know, that's fine that this movie can just, like, ignore that because it's not trying to be that movie. And I guess it's kind of refreshing to, like, see a movie like this and not have to deal with that, like, not have that going on.
That's true, yeah.
So in a way, it's kind of refreshing, but it also, you know, seems a little odd that, like, there was even no mention of it at all.
It makes it a little bit disingenuous retrospectively, but at the same time, it is kind of refreshing to be like, oh, they're in prison.
They're in prison. They're just equal. The guards treat everybody like shit. You know, a white guy and a black guy become best friends and live happily ever after together in Mexico, fixing boats
or something. Who knows? But yeah, I guess that maybe what they're trying to do.
I don't know. Again, that was just a thought that came in my head at some point during the movie, but I don't think it takes anything away from the movie at all.
No.
It's just something to discuss.
And this movie wouldn't be the same without Morgan Freeman. And like I said, the only...
not at all. Like, again, like, Tim Robbins does fantastic in this movie, but I could see him replaced with someone else before Morgan Freeman being replaced with someone else.
Yeah,
like, especially knowing him now. And again, I think this kind of cemented his Morgan Freeman-ness. So, like, I definitely could not see this movie without Morgan Freeman being in that role. Oh, something I don't think we ever mentioned. We talked about this, and of course it's weird for us to be doing this movie, but the reason we're doing this movie is because we got a donation to the site, and we're asked to do this movie. Now, usually we have kind of two guidelines. It has to be at least 10 years old, and it has to be relatively forgotten. This obviously meets half of those standards, but we like money. So just know, if you send us money and ask us to do a podcast, we're gonna do it. Yeah, because we appreciate you as an audience, and we appreciate money as human beings that need to eat.
Well put.
Thank you. I've been working on that for a while.
Nice.
But yeah, so definitely thank you very much to Tasha for donating, and we know we got very off topic quite a bit in this. But, you know, we couldn't help it. We have both seen this movie a lot, and we tried to stay on point and talk about it as much as possible. But we hope you enjoy. And shit.
And I will go back, because I want to talk about the cursing one more time, because I didn't get this out. But when Andy goes in the hole, there's a scene where the Elvis guy is talking to Morgan Freeman, and he gets his packet back from the high school equivalency, and he says, "You gonna open it or stand there with your thumb up your butt?" I thought that was extremely strange. That
I thought it was thumb up your ass.
No. He says butt.
I'm fairly certain he says thumb up your ass, and he's like, thumb my ass sounds better. Did you watch Did you go watch TNT? Is this how you watch this movie? Is that what happened?
I'm starting to wonder.
Maybe you're just like connecting it with when you saw it on TNT, because I'm sure it said thumb up your butt, but I'm fairly certain he said thumb up your ass.
I'm almost positive it was butt. Now I'm wondering if like I watched a weird version that's kind of intercut with the TNT version.
Maybe, or maybe you're just having TNT flashbacks.
I don't know. I could have sworn. Anyway, fine.
But anyway, Shawshank Redemption is definitely an iconic cultural moment in film. Not only because it was kind of like the little movie that could, because again, it has kind of a confusing title that people won't really understand. It's a prison movie, which really only has certain demographics that go to it and stuff. So it didn't do too well, but then it got nominated for like 7 Oscars. It didn't win any, of course, but it got nominated for like 7 Oscars, came back out, made a little bit more money, and then, I guess 95 it would have been, kind of still the boom of like VHS, I think DVD was starting around that time.
It was around the corner.
It was around the corner. But
98,
but there were rentals, and then but there were rentals going on in stores all the time. Then TNT showing movies on cable, kind of that was their pillar. That's where they started at. Like it's the little movie that could, and now it's just beloved by everybody. So congratulations and well done, Frank Darabont and company.
Yes, y'all made a cultural touchstone inadvertently.
Yeah, and again, definitely not my favorite movie of all time. I don't know. I could probably put it in some kind of top 250 list, but it would not be anywhere towards the bottom 50. But no. I mean, it is definitely a very enjoyable movie. It had been years since I've seen it, and I forgot how much I did like the movie. Mostly just because I hadn't seen it in its entirety for so long that I had just seen like bits and pieces like, oh yeah, I remember this movie. But actually watching it as a whole, it's still a very powerful piece of filmmaking, and it's expertly executed. It has a wonderful look and tone to it, wonderful camera movement. It's mostly just that very last tacked on scene that really kind of gets to me. But again, that's what pleases the majority of people.
And I think that's what I definitely don't like. It is IMDb's #1 like fan film or like user film. And I can see that because I feel like everyone can agree that this is a good movie, but I think more people are more contentious about great movies because they make them feel different emotions, and and that's because the whole TNT thing. Yeah,
and again, this could and probably is viewed more as a feel-good movie by a lot of people because they're used to the second half of it and being more kind of like an uplift. Yeah, there's sad things that happen, but it's more uplifting. But looking at it as a whole, yes, it gets uplifting in the last time, but it's also the complete opposite of that for the majority of the movie.
Yeah, first it has to dash your spirits. And
it does.
Then it brings them back up.
Which I guess is what a good movie does. It has to bring you down in order to actually be able to bring you up. If you're already happy and content, then it's going to be a lot harder to bring you up than if they cut your legs out from under you.
Yeah.
But, it is. It's a very good movie. I was very happy to watch it again. I will say it's, and I think that's why the study shows, man. It's good, but it's no Mrs. Doubtfire. So that was our take on The Shawshank Redemption. Sorry if we got a little bit off track, but it really is a good movie and you had to keep it interesting somehow. Join us next week as we take a completely different approach towards a completely different kind of film. What happens when you toss a rising pop star in with one of the world's blandest actors for a dramatic musical romance film that spent several decades in development hell? Well, you get The Bodyguard. And 22 years later, you get crushed celluloid. We'll see you next time.